Hey, comic book fans, my nerdy friends, and my geeky compadres, what's going on? Welcome to another Trading with RWC. This week we're going to take a look at a book that I've actually been looking for a while and finally found it at Motor City Comic Con this year. I've been looking for it since I read The Invisible People, and the book I have just currently finished is A Contract with God by Will Eisner. Alright, so A Contract with God by Will Eisner. It's actually a collection of four different stories, um, all put together in this one book, entitled, well, A Contract with God, but titled after the first story of the collection. Um, all those stories, and let me just back up a second. All the stories in this book all take place in New York around the Great Depression, like 1930s, at a place, at a tenement on 55 Dropsy Avenue in the Bronx. They all kind of center around this one building and life that revolves around this one building. Um, the first of the four stories in which the book is titled is about a man who the story starts off with him burying his daughter, um, which he finds voiding the contract he made with God when he was younger. By that, I mean, when he was younger, he did a lot of very good things for a lot of people, kind of tipping the scales in his favor as far as good deeds go or karma goes. And at this time, everybody was telling him that, God will repay you one day for your kindness type stuff. And so, with having this happen throughout his life, he picks up a stone and writes out a contract that he makes with God and signs it and keeps it with him. Um, Sort of like his own little commandment or, contract with God. So, having had his daughter pass away on him, he sees this as God breaking their contract. Um, he spent his entire life um, being very charitable, as far as monetarily and morally and just charitable towards people. Um, so he then takes it upon himself to say, well, if God broke the contract, I am now going to break the contract. And instead of being a tenant in this shithole building, he decides to take money uh, from I don't want to say church, but it's not church because he's Jewish, and I feel bad for not knowing it, for not knowing the name of it, and I'm very sorry if I offend anybody. I was brought up Catholic, so everything was church. What is it? Uh, Sorry. The synagogue. Oh God, sorry about that. That was terrible. Uh, he took bonds from the people of the synagogue and used them to buy the building that he lived in. In in doing so became the landlord of the tenement, um, making people's rent go up 10% and cutting down on um, the steam or the heat, or what makes the water warm, cutting that down by 10%, and started making money hand over fist. He starts buying other buildings and ends up doing really, really well for himself. Um, has a little mistress on the side who wants to get married. Um, he decides that with his life going according to his plan now, he wants to write up a new contract with God. Um, Let me backtrack because I totally forgot about this part. In him getting so upset, and actually in this scene right here, um, after his daughter has died, who actually ended up being an adopted daughter, somebody left at his doorstep, um, because he was such a good man. Um, he took her in and looked after her as his own. Um, After she passed, he threw his original contract with God out the window. So the little rock, he got in an argument with God. He's yelling at God out his window. I want to see if I can find that part because that was awesome. So he's like yelling at God here, and then in response to like what he says, lightning strikes, and then he says something else, and then lightning strikes again. Then he gets very upset, says it's enough, spits on his contract, and then proceeds to chuck it out the window into the rain. Anyway, so his life's going really well, and he goes to the head of the synagogue, the three men who are, I guess, the rabbis, and asks them to write up a contract for him and God. Um, After much debate, they do so. He signs it, and right after that, has a heart attack and dies. uh, so, as far as the true story aspect of this, I don't know how much is true, but it's interesting to say the least. And as an epilogue to that story, turns out all the buildings on that block uh, get set on fire except for 55. Why can't I think of it now? Jeez, 55 Dropsy Avenue. That one stays, and another child who lives in the tenement starts getting picked on. He's a good kid. He starts throwing back rocks at the boys that are picking on him, and picks up the rock that was the original contract to God, sees it, and then signs his name at the bottom, and begins his contract with God. So, kind of cool. I really liked it. The next story was not as. I mean, it was good. It just that one grabbed me, like completely had me. This one is about a street singer who, I guess, back in those days, during the Great Depression, people would sing in the streets, and other people would throw money down to them. In this particular alley that he was singing in, a lady throws a note down asking him to come up. He comes up. She claims to be a very well-known singer who fell upon bad times and wants to make him the golden baritone and create his career for him, because the way she lost her career, her husband was drunk and beat her, and she quit singing to be with him and just stopped singing. This gentleman that she wants to bring up and train agrees to it, takes some money from her to go get a suit to look the part. Instead, he goes and spends the money on copious amounts of whiskey and takes it home, becomes severely inebriated, and starts slapping his wife around. When he wakes up, she forgives him. He apologizes. He tells her what the plan is, like for this lady to train him to be a singer. But he never bothered to write down the address, and she doesn't know where he doesn't know where she lives, because he's singing in every alley he can go down. So that sucks. Karma's a bitch. So there's that story. The third story is about the super of 59 or 55 Dropsy Avenue. Kind of just a miserable schmuck of a man, and ends up getting what's coming to him in the end. I'm not going to tell you that one because that one just didn't interest me at all. He was just a bastard and died. Done. And the fourth story, which was kind of funny to me, was all about people vacationing, going from the city to the country to different hotels, and it's actually 4 different stories in that story about different like families. Like one family, this gentleman, his wife, and all his kids are going up to the forest so they can like upstate, so they can have a nice vacation while he continues to work for the family. This one girl leaves her mom to go up for the summer so she can find a rich guy to marry. Another gentleman goes up to find a rich girl so he can marry, and then another female goes up to just get away from her husband, basically. Now all 4 of these groups of people end up interacting in pretty peculiar ways sometimes. But I mean, the funny part is the female and male who went up there to go find rich people to marry, of course, meet each other and think each other is rich because they dressed the part, and the lady took a taxi and the gentleman rented a car, so each other thought the other one was rich. Now, the end result of that situation didn't end up very well. I don't want to ruin all the stories for you, but just in case you get the chance to read this, because it was really good. But the interactions between the family and the other individuals going on vacation to the hotels upstate was pretty funny. So overall, I really, really enjoyed this book. If you get a chance to read it, you definitely should. Will Eisner is just a fantastic storyteller, an incredible artist, and has just a fantastic way with words. Especially in the time period pieces in which he does. Invisible People was the same way, done around the Great Depression time, and that was a phenomenal book. This one is a phenomenal book. If I can, I will find more Will Eisner stuff, and I will gladly read it because it's just fantastic. So, again, Contract with God, fantastic. 2 thumbs up for me. And that's going to be it for this one. So, thank you for watching. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you later.